Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rav Shmuel, ben Yehoshua, Rashbi for my initials for short, Rabbi Stephen. Glad to be with you. Glad you can join me for this week's 10-minute Torah, which this portion that we're going to be reading on Saturday is Parsha Vayigosh, and he approached. Now, a couple of things. First, hope you all had an enjoyable Hanukkah. It was a little different this year, of course, with the COVID. We were all kind of secluding in place. You know, folks, life isn't perfect, right? We have to deal with life as we get it. We have to make the most of things. And certainly our people, we Jews, we Hebrews, we have had to face adversity throughout our history. And, we've always come up shining. So, they've got the vaccines out now, and people hopefully are starting to be more careful. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm thinking we'll be back together maybe April, May. Maybe that's a little optimistic. But, of course, some people will still want to, seclude. They're concerned. They're worried about their health. And that's fine. Maybe we'll continue to, doing Zoom for a while for those people that just can't get out. So we'll see how it goes. I would also like to thank Trudy Laban for davening Torah this week, and of course Judy and Hushang last week, and we've got other people coming up that want to do some Torah readings, and it's just a beautiful thing. Now this week, as you all probably have heard, this is going to be a regular Friday night, but Saturday is going to be different. We are going to be honoring one Sophie Levine from up north, the daughter of Josh and Rachel, the granddaughter of Bernard and Ellen. And we're certainly looking forward to that. It's the service is going to be a little different because they do things a little differently. So what I've done as the rabbi is make an effort to kind of mesh what they want to do with what we do, and kind of meet somewhere in the middle as a compromise. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it's going to be great. We're all going to love it, and Sophie's going to do just great. We're looking forward to that. Okay, so Vayigosh, he approached. Judah approaches Joseph. As you remember, Joseph has been in Egypt for the last 22 years or so, first as the head for a year of Potiphar, one of the grand vizier. He was one of the top guys in Pharaoh's administration, let's call it, in his kingdom. And after a year, he was set up. He was sent to prison for 10 years. He interpreted a couple of dreams of a couple of people that were there. After a couple of years staying in prison, he was called to interpret the dreams of Pharaoh, which he did to Pharaoh's satisfaction. As a result, maybe a reward, you can say. And for his foresight, he was put in charge of all of Egypt next to Pharaoh. Once again, he was second in command next to Pharaoh. He was given an Egyptian name, Zapaneth-Panea, and he basically saved Egypt and the known world from famine. Now we have Jacob sending the 10 brothers over to get supplies. Joseph recognizes them immediately, but him being in different garb, he's grown older, he's got facial hair, has a little hat, different name. They don't recognize him. And he kind of plays with them a little bit, puts them through a series of psychological tasks to see that they don't bear any enmity toward him, any resentment. And when he sees that he does, that they do, he's now getting ready to reveal himself. But he had first set up Benjamin, putting his goblet in his sack as a further test of the brothers. Judah had given his word to his father Jacob that he would watch over Benjamin, make sure he returns. Joseph, as Zapaneth-Panea, the grand vizier, is going to imprison and enslave Benjamin as penalty for stealing his goblet. Judah comes forth and offers himself as a hostage so that he can let Benjamin go, because Benjamin staying in Israel would break his father's heart. The interaction between the two is very interesting. Now, Rabbi Hertz in the Sansino edition calls it a beautiful interaction between two very strong personalities, and they were. If you remember a few portions ago, when the brothers first sold Joseph into slavery, there was a break in the flow where Judah goes off by himself, gets into business with an Adullamite, And of course, we see that he has two sons that have died because of, and people have different opinions as to why they died. The oldest heir and the second youngest Onan, and his daughter-in-law Tamar tricks him into doing levirate, into having sex with her, so that she would have sons, and she does have a couple of sons, Perez and Zerah, one of whom, Peretz, ends up being the ancestor of the Davidic line. And so, in a way, we have two kings. Think about it. Joseph was the grand vizier. He was the second in command of Pharaoh. Judah, we are all Jews because we're all, most of us anyway, are descended from the line of Judah. So Judah was a very strong personality, and my thinking is that the reason the Torah digresses to talk about Judah in that way, going into business for himself, with a partner, is to show that he, was a strong individual. He was independent. So it's not like he's groveling in front of Joseph, begging him, pleading with him. Oh, poor Benjamin, his father, his hoariness, his gray hair, he's going to die when he finds out. He doesn't do that. He approaches him very confidently. And he says, look, you've asked us to all these tasks. You've asked about our family, and we've been honest with you. You wanted to see our youngest brother, Benjamin. His father was afraid to allow us to bring him here, that something, God forbid, would happen to him. And now that something has, I've given my word as a pledge, and I want to make good on that. So I'm asking you, as the Grand Vizier, accept my offer to take me in his place so that it doesn't break his father's heart. That's kind of the way Judah approached Joseph. Think of the strength, almost the audacity, as we say today, maybe even the chutzpah of Judah confronting almost a representative, almost Pharaoh himself. And at that point, of course, Joseph couldn't contain himself. He sends all the Egyptians out of the room. He breaks down. He reveals himself, and he moves them where? Think about this. The name of the portion is Vayigosh, and he approached. So where do the Israelites, Jacob and the sons, end up? Because they're herdsmen, and the Egyptians worship animals, and for the Israelites to be herding livestock in the midst of Egyptians, lording over their gods would be an affront. So he puts them in Goshen. Think of the terms. Vayigosh, he approached, and Goshen. Kind of something from the Zohar makes that point. Now, does that mean that the Israelites were approaching Egypt, but they didn't just get there? Your guess is probably as good as anybody's. But that's basically how it plays out. So we now have the Israelites, they bring word to Jacob that Joseph, your son, is still alive. They do it very considerately because Jacob is old, and even the shock of hearing, "Oh my gosh, my son's alive." Maybe his body couldn't handle the stress, and he might, have a problem, have a medical issue or a health issue from hearing that news. So they break the news. The art scroll says that Asher's daughter, Sarah, who had a beautiful voice, she played the harp. So she kind of presented it to him in song, to kind of help kind of alleviate the actual stress of hearing this fantastic news. So the Israelites now come to Egypt. Jacob meets Pharaoh, and Pharaoh, of course, is impressed with Jacob. He says, "Wow, you're the father of this guy that saved our kingdom, saved the world, and I wanted to meet you, and we wanted to honor you." And Jacob, in return, honors him and blesses him. And they say because of that, some of the years of the famine, they were supposed to be 7 years, and it ended after 2 or 3. But in the meantime, Joseph, with his MBA from Wharton or Harvard School of Business, I'm being facetious, of course, but he comes across a way because the Egyptians now have no more money to buy the grain. So basically, he makes them serfs of the kingdom. He moves them around, and now everybody is in a different place, and it kind of alleviates the fact that the Jacob and his sons are in a different area. They're in a suburb, just like everybody else is in a suburb, and basically now everybody's working for Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is now a business owner. Think about it. He now owns the means of production, which back then was agrarian, for the grain. The Egyptians worshiping animals were basically vegetarians. Um, whether they had a keto diet or not, whether they, were vegetarians, who knows? But they didn't eat animals because they worshipped animals. So now everybody is working for Pharaoh, and Egypt becomes stronger. So this is where we leave off, and we're coming to the end of Genesis. We are soon going to be approaching Moses, and we'll take that as we come. Once again, folks, any questions, please let me know. I've got a forum on my website. You can always email me. And of course, Tuesday evening. Now, this time we're starting at 7:30. Now that the book fairs, the publishers' fairs are over, we're going to be starting at 7:30 this Tuesday. I'm going to be taking a few days off in a few weeks, but we'll still do our Torah study. Hope to see you there. And a little early, Shabbat Shalom. And thank you for tuning in.